Hey, hi friends, very good morning to everyone. So, last class we have discussed about different things like we have seen phases of SQL execution, which contains parsing, then execution and fetching. Then we tried to understand how a select statement will process in the database and how it will be fetching the data. So, next we need to talk about DML processing, how an insert, update, or delete statements will process in the database. But before that, we need to understand something about logical structures of the database. So there are totally four logical structures of the database. So when I say logical structures, you can understand physically these structures will not be available. Only it is a kind of representation that we are doing so that it will be easy for us to understand the concept. So the four logical structures are: one is table space, second one is segment, the third one is extend, and finally Oracle data block. So out of these four, in the last class we have already discussed about Oracle data block. So Oracle data block is nothing but the one which is going to store the actual data. So the place where we are going to store the rows of the table, we are going to call that as Oracle data block. So as you can see in the picture there, multiple Oracle blocks combined together, we are going to call that as an extent. So like this, a group of blocks, we can say a group of blocks combined together, we are going to call it as an extent. Or there is also another definition for extent, that is the smallest memory unit that is allocated to that object is called as extent. For example, when you create a table in the database, it won't occupy any space. The moment you create a table, it won't occupy any space because table creation is just a definition. The moment you start inserting the data into the table, that moment it will start, occupying some space. And how Oracle is going to allocate the space to the tables. Let's say I have created a new table and I started inserting into it. Then Oracle will allocate some memory unit initially, maybe like 1 MB or 2 MB or 5 MB or 10 MB. What could be the size? As a DBA, we can decide, or we can leave the choice to Oracle so that it will automatically allocate whatever the memory that it wants to. So there are two options. One, as a DBA, I can specify that you need to allocate 5 MB every time, and once the first 5 MB is full, then you need to go to the second 5 MB. So this is one way. Or otherwise, sorry. So we leave the chance to Oracle. So Oracle will decide how much it need to allocate. So first time it may allocate 5 MB, next time it may allocate only 3 MB. So depends on the usage, it is going to decide that automatically. So that memory allocation, whatever Oracle is doing, so that memory unit, we are going to call it as extent. So which means if you are having a table of let's say 60 MB and Oracle is allocating 5 MB for each extent, it means that totally your table is occupying 12 extents. 12 into 5 is equals to 60 MB. So your table is occupied into 12 extents. So that is what as per the calculation. Now all these 12 extents combined together, we are going to call it as a segment. So let me put it in this way. So let's say, this is like this. We have multiple extents. So let's say these are 12 extents totally. So all these 12 extents, let's assume each extent size is of 5 MB. So combined together, we are going to call it as segment. So segment is nothing but an object which occupies space. Like either it could be a table, because table will occupy space in the database, or index. Index will also occupy space in the database, but no other object will occupy space. We have something called materialized view, but that can also be considered as a table. So these two are the main objects which will occupy space. So that means segment can be of two types. Either we can have a table segment or we can have a index segment. So later we will understand that. Now if you take this extent, as I said, a group of blocks is called extent. So when I say 5 MB is the extent size, it will be like, for example, 5000 KB. So and we know that each block size is of 8 KB. So which means in this extent of 5 MB, we will be having approximately 600 blocks. So if you just divide this, we will be having something like this, 600 blocks. So see, these 600 blocks combined together, we are going to call it as extent, and these 12 extents we are going to call it as segment. Like now we have different segments. Let's say this is segment 1. Similarly, I have segment 2, segment 3, etc. All these are combined together. We are going to call it as table space. So now what is mean by table space? What is its definition? In simple terms, or as per the books, it says that a group of segments is called as a table space. But if you take a look at a simple definition here, split this word, it is a space where the tables are going to reside. So the place or the storage where you are going to place your tables, or where the tables are occupying the space, that you are going to call it as a table space. Now we already understood one point, that our data will be residing in the data files. So we have a component called data files in the architecture diagram. So we know that the actual data will be stored in these data files. So another relation between this table space and the data files is multiple data files combined together. You are going to call it as table space. So which means table space is an alias name to the data files or group of data files. So instead of calling it as data file 1, data file 2, etc., we are combining those data files into a group, and we are giving a name to that we are going to call it as a table space. So to give a small example, uh, for this particular batch, physically you people are there, and logically you are all connected with one particular group name or one particular batch ID. So when we address that particular batch ID, like for example, you have TMDBA010. So when we address the TMDBA010 group, it means that we are trying to address each and every person in the batch. So similarly here also, So TMDBA010 is like a logical name that we have given, but physically your name is the actual one. So similarly, data files also will have their own names, but group of data files combined together, logically we are going to call that as table space, and we are going to give that some name to the table space. Similarly, how you people are spread across multiple locations, like some people are here in India, some people are there in abroad. Similarly, even the data files also can be spread across multiple hard disk. So in a server, if I have multiple hard disk, then I can have the data files in separate hard disk. It is not mandatory that all the files should be there in the same hard disk. So that is the relation between the table space and the data files. So is that clear, or anyone having any questions?
How many data segments form a data file?
Okay, so that depends on the size of the data file. So like we discussed here, suppose if you have data file size of 20 GB, then we can understand inside 20 GB, what is the size of the table that is occupying. So some tables may occupy more size and some tables may occupy less size, right? So it all depends on that.